Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever applies to you. I hope you're well and welcome to Big Foodie Geek, and I am the Big Foodie Geek. So I went into my YouTube creator studio recently. That is the place where basically I can upload my videos and I can comment on videos, reply to comments if there are any, and basically just check out things like my analytics and all that stuff, the stuff where I go and maintain my channel really. And it told me that I had created the channel 4 years ago. 4 freaking years ago. It does not feel that long. In fact, it feels a lot shorter. It still feels like I'm getting started with it. Now, maybe that's because I took a bit of a gap in the middle to try and sort my life out. And well, we can see how that worked out. But still, it doesn't feel like I've been doing this for 4 years. And look what I've got to show for it. Actually, I've got over 2,000 subscribers, and that's pretty cool. That's like 500 people per year subscribing, so that is actually pretty good. And to be honest, I never thought that 2,000 people would be interested in subscribing to me waffling on and attempting to make food. So it is a pretty cool milestone, and 4 years is a big deal for me to still be doing this, especially after I took a break in the middle. I came back and I'm still going, and I am hanging in there, both in terms of the channel and life in general. So I thought we need to mark the occasion. We need to mark 4 years by doing something big. And of course, something big means giant food. It is something that I haven't done for quite a long time. And I am quite nervous about this one because the ones that I've done before, well, I've done a giant cinnamon roll. There we go, look at that. I have done a giant Tunnocks tea cake. This is it. Yes. And I have also done a giant Jaffa cake. That is a Jaffa cake and a half. But the commonality of those is they are all sweet things. I have not done a savoury giant food yet. So I'm going to rectify that today by trying to make a giant pork pie, or more specifically, a giant Gala pie. Now, the difference between a pork pie and a Gala pie is basically a Gala pie has got eggs going all the way through it. So when you cut into it, you get some pie and you get a slice of egg in the middle as well. Pork pies are a British staple, but if you've not had one before, basically a pork pie is a pork filling, generally pork mince, sausage meat, something like that. And then it is wrapped in a hot water crust pastry. Now, what a hot water crust pastry, and it differs from regular pastry, it is made using hot water and lard usually, so animal fat. And what a hot water crust pastry is, because it's hot, it allows you to kind of hand mold it, really raise up the edges of the pie and get a really nice and strong pie crust. And for me, it's probably one of the nicest pie crusts out there. But to accompany the filling inside the pork pie, there is also some jelly as well. Not like sweet jelly, not like strawberry or raspberry or anything like that. No, no, no. It is a meaty jelly, usually made from something like stock, basically, chicken stock. Could be pork stock if you've made one. And basically what that jelly does is when the meat shrinks back, because it will shrink back when you cook it, that jelly will basically help fill in the gaps where that meat has shrunk back and give you a nice load of filling. So I am going to be trying to make a giant Gala pie today. I'm going to be trying to make it in this. This is basically the same tin that I have used for some of my other giant foods. I did the giant cinnamon roll in it, and I also did the giant Jaffa cake in it. In fact, I used 2 of these for this. It is massive, it is bigger than my big old head. And of course, I want to make my pie filling. So I went to the supermarket to see what I could get my hands on. And I managed to get myself some pork mince, but I could only get 3 packs, which is still a lot of pork mince. That's still 1.5 kilos, but I still don't think that's going to be enough. But that is literally all the supermarket had left. But I don't think that's going to be enough, so I'm going to try and bulk it out. So I picked up a few other things that might help bulk this out, depending on how much I'm going to need. Some sausage meat, some packs of sausage meat. The good thing about this stuff, it is already kind of a little bit seasoned, so yeah, it's got the salt, pepper, stuff like that in it already. So I got myself some streaky bacon, so I thought if I blitz this up and put that in there as well, that will be very nice. That will add some lovely smoky flavour to it. And if that's still not enough, I've also picked up some pork shoulder steaks as well, so I can blitz these up and put those in there as well. So we can really pack this out. Honestly, I don't know how much I'm going to need, but we will see how we get on. So I don't think there's anything else left to do apart from to get started with this giant Gala pie to mark 4 years of Big Foodie Geek / Big Friendly Grub, as it used to be called. Let's make this mother flipping pie. So firstly, I'm going to start off with my filling because I want to get an idea of how much that I'm going to need, and then I can season it up and also give it some time for those flavours to mingle while I make the pastry. So let's start off with getting some pork mince in here. 1, 2, 3. So that's 1.5 kilos of pork mince, which already looks like quite a lot. But bear in mind, that has got to go in here. So I'm going to bulk this out. I'm going to bulk it out with my sausage meat. So these come in 375 gram packs. I'm going to use probably all 3 of the ones that I bought. So that gives me over like 2.5 kilos worth of mince there. I'm gonna get my hands in here and really mix this all together. Get your hands in there, get messy. You know what, now I've got my hands in there and I'm mixing it together, we are gonna need more than this, that's for sure. So I think I am gonna use that streaky bacon, and I'm also gonna use those pork shoulder steaks as well, because we are gonna need the whole hog, pun definitely intended. So let me get my hands washed, and I am going to blitz up those pork steaks and that bacon. While I was trying to wash my hands, clumsy ass here managed to spill a whole load of water down themselves. Look at that, look at that. I've looked like I've pissed myself. Well, I haven't, I am just clumsy. So I'm just gonna stay like that, yeah. That's how this video is gonna go, isn't it? Right, I've got my food processor here with its quadruple blades. It is a beast, so I'm gonna do the bacon first. There is like 16 streaky bacon rashers here, smoked ones, and I'm just gonna absolutely blitz that up. You know what, I think that'll do. That is a pretty good texture for me to go into there. So like I said, I think I'll do these pork shoulder steaks as well. So including the streaky bacon, which is 300 grams, that gives us another kilo's worth of pork. So if that's not enough, nothing is, and I'm not going out and buying more, so we'll have to make do with all of that. Right, farewell pork steaks. Hold on, it's having a bit of trouble with these. Let's take some out. Oh dear, I should not have overloaded it. If I lose my fingers, well, I had a good run. This is absolutely cool on those. Let's try that again. Yep, that texture works for me. Let's go with that. Okay, that looks like a better amount for our filling. Let me just get in here and just mix all of this together now. Now, while we've got that sausage meat in there, there is no way that's going to be enough. So while we've got that sausage meat in there, which is seasoned, there's no way that is going to be enough seasoning for all of that filling. So I need to get some extra seasonings in here. So I'm going to go with a tablespoon of salt. Bear in mind that pork is already salty, so I don't need too much more. And a tablespoon is a lot of salt, but it's a lot of meat, so that's fine. And a tablespoon of black pepper, and a tablespoon of white pepper, half a tablespoon of nutmeg, which is a very strong flavour. Right, back in with my hands, hopefully for the last time. Okay, oh, I shouldn't slap my meat like that. I'm going to put this into the fridge, covered up, just to kind of chill for a while and let those flavours mingle while I get on with preparing the other parts of my Gala Pie, which is the eggs and the pastry. So for inside the Gala Pie, I'm going to need some hard-boiled eggs. I'm not going to go into huge detail about how to boil an egg, because quite frankly, hopefully everyone knows how to boil an egg. Got to give these about 7 minutes, and I'm actually going to go with a dozen eggs. So another 6 into here. And to be honest, 12 eggs feels a bit extravagant, because there is actually a limitation on how many eggs you can buy at the moment in the UK. Because there's a cost of living crisis, bum bum. Anyway, these are going to have 6 or 7 minutes, then I'll plunge them into cold water to stop the cooking process, and then I can get them peeled and they can be popped in to the pie later. With my meat and eggs in the fridge, now I can focus on my pastry. And as I said, this is a hot water crust pastry, so I need hot water, which I've got here. Not boiling, not anything like that, just hot. Usually if I'm making a normal size pork pie or smaller pork pies like little individual ones, then I would usually use 500 grams of flour, about 280 milliliters of hot water, and 110 grams of lard and a teaspoon of salt. But today we're going bigger. So I think I'm going to quadruple that. So I'm going to use 2 kilos of flour, 1.125 litres of hot water, 440 grams of lard, and 8 teaspoons of salt. Hopefully quadruple the amount will be big enough for my needs. So with my hot water on the go, all I'm going to do is add my lard in, 440 grams worth here. I've already kind of like just broken it up into smaller pieces, so it won't take as long to melt, because that's all we're doing. We're melting the lard into the water. This pastry gives us a lovely, strong pastry. So while that is melting, I've got my flour here. I have actually got 2 types of flour here. I've got a kilo of plain flour, but also a kilo of strong white bread flour. Because I want a bit of strength to this, I want it to be able to hold this massive pie. And I've always found this combination of like 50-50 plain and 50-50 strong really good for these kinds of pies, and I always go for that. But I still need to season my pastry, so I need 8 teaspoons of flour. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I'm just going to get in with a whisk here, just combine those flours together. I'm standing here thinking I haven't even made like regular pork pies or gala pie on the channel before, and here I am going in with an absolutely massive pork pie. But I think we're long overdue for a giant food, so why the heck not go big? Why is saying go big or go home supposed to be a negative thing? I like being home. There's no people at home, there's just me and my cat. It's pleasant here. So I'm making a well in the center of my flour, and I'm just gonna put some of it into there, not all of it. Not to start off with, because I want to work this in. Right, I'm going to get in there with my hands now, carefully, because it is still very hot. Right, I'm going to finish just working this outside of the bowl, but it's come together very, very nicely. It's looking very nice and smooth and feeling very, very nice. Right, that dough is looking very, very nice. So I want to move while it's still warm. It is still good to handle and can be shaped easily. So I'm going to pop it back in its bowl for a moment, because this is where we get our tin and start creating our pie shape. Right, I've got my giant tin here, so I've got 2/3 of my dough here, and I want to work with this very quickly, and I want to be able to mould this around the tin. Usually with pork pies, I would try and cook it out of a tin. I'd use a tin to mould it, but I would then take it out of the tin and cook it separately. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that with this one. This is already cooling down quite quickly, so I'm trying to work as quickly as I can. I've got a hole here. Right, that is pretty well lined with our pastry now. I've brought it up and over the sides for a bit of excess, then I might be able to crimp that over, or if it's too much I can trim it off. But one way or another, we've got plenty there to cover that tin. And yes, I sound out of breath because I am out of breath, because that was hard work. Right, now is the moment of truth for the pork pie filling. Let's get that in there and see how full we can actually make this. So I'm going to pop in half of this first, because obviously I want to then put my eggs into it. Okay, now I want to pop my hard-boiled eggs in there. They actually peel pretty well, apart from a couple, so I'm happy about that. But before I pop those in, throw some flour over them, because it stops them from being so slippery, and they should sit in that pork mixture better. There's half my mixture there. It's not as high up as I would like, but it's going to have to do. So let's get these eggs in. Basically, I want to have them like pretty much touching, so it looks like they're one continuous egg. Because I think in factories where they make pork pies or gala pies, they can do that. They can just make one long egg, but we can't do that here. So I'm going to have to make do with what I've got. Actually, I can spread those out a bit more. And let's get some more of that filling in. Right, I probably sped up the footage, but you might have seen I've really struggled to get those eggs properly covered up. But I think this is the best I'm going to be able to do. It's not as high up as I would have liked. I would have liked to have filled this up. But to be honest, that's all the filling I could manage on my budget. So we're going to have to hope that comes out all right. I've got to get the lid on and then get this into the oven. So thankfully my dough is still warm. Gently just ease this out. I'll try and get it fairly even. Right, let's try and use some of this excess from around the edges to do like a crimp. Well, that's not my most delicate crimp in the world, but it's still a pork pie shape. Now what I do need to do is make a hole in the middle where we will be pouring in our jelly later on. Also let some of the steam out. And then I just want to do an egg wash on top. Right, nothing left to do but get this in the oven. God, this thing is heavy! Right, God knows how long this thing needs, but I'm going to give it half an hour in there at 190 degrees C, uncovered. Then depending on how it looks in terms of colour, I will probably then cover it up in foil to stop it going too dark, and then maybe give it another half hour so it has an hour in total. But ultimately I'll have to stick a temperature probe into it to make sure that pork is cooked. So we will come back and see how we get on while I try and do some tidying up. Right, it's been 30 minutes, but I can see through there that the colour is not too brown at the moment, to be honest. It's coming along, but it is nowhere near brown enough. So I'm going to turn this around to try and get an even bake. And I'm going to just keep it going for another 30 minutes and let that carry on baking, cooking, all the way through, making sure that pork is cooked and that is brown. And generally, I just want it to be a nice tasting Gala pie. Will it be? Who knows? But it's coming along. So we'll be back in another 30 minutes. Okay, this has had a little over an hour, and that, oh, if you can see, look at that. That is looking pretty good now. That has got nice colour on it. Smells really good as well. So what I'm going to do, good God, it's heavy. I'm going to take it out and then I'm just going to pop a thermometer into it to make sure that the meat is cooked, because it's pork and I want to be safe. So this is going to come out. Can I lift it one-handed? No, I can't. It is really heavy. So out this comes. Oh, look at that. That is looking like a really nice colour. Now, thermometer. Right, I've got my thermometer here, so I'm just going to pop this through about here. That is 73, 74 degrees C and rising, 75. So I'm going to just pop it in another place as well, just to be sure. Yeah, 76. That is well over the safe limit for pork, which is usually about 70 odd degrees C for mince, I would say. If you're cooking like a tenderloin or like a cut of meat, you can have it a bit lower. But for mince and sausage meat and stuff like that, I want it to be at least 72 degrees C. Don't know if you can see that at all, but that is coming away from the edges of the tin, which is good, because hopefully that will help me take it out. Still have no idea how I'm going to get this out yet, but it can rest in the tin for a bit while I sort out the stock, which is basically going to make the jelly filling to go into this to kind of fill in all those gaps where the meat's going to have shrunk back. So let's leave that to rest for a bit, and yes, I am touching the metal, and yes, it is hot. So for my jelly filling, I've got 2 litres of chicken stock here, which I made a little while ago, but obviously this by itself is not going to do it because it's just liquid and we want to turn it into a jelly. For that, we will need gelatin, and if you don't know what gelatin is, well, you probably don't really want to know, but it's essentially a protein made from boiling down parts of the animals that you may not usually use, things like bones, tendons, skin, all the fun bits and pieces that probably wouldn't get used otherwise. You can get vegetarian gelatin, but there's no point today because obviously I've used a crap ton of meat, so no point. So I'm using leaf gelatin, and I've got a lot here because I need a lot. But we can't use this as it is. It needs to bloom in some cold water. Blooming is essentially making it soft and ready for use in our hot liquid, which is our stock. So I'm just popping those leaves into some cold water for about 5 minutes, and that will soften them down, ready to go into our stock. Right, I've been thinking about how to get this out of the tin, and I think my best bet is to do what I've done, wrap it in foil to kind of create a safety net, which will then allow me to hopefully tip this up, slide it onto this board underneath. I will put another board underneath it, then try and turn that up onto that, so it's the right way up, because I can't think of any other way to get this out because it is so heavy. I'm worried about dropping it. I've got a damp tea towel here, which I'm going to use to hopefully stop me from burning myself, because I've got to put my hand underneath this tin. And then 1, 2, 3. Up and over. Oh my God, I'm worried about this. I'm worried about breaking it. But I've committed. So now I tear this foil away, take this away. Oh, it's stuck a bit. Oh no, it's stuck a bit. It's stuck a bit. That is not good. That's going to mean that gelatin's going to come out. Oh, bollocks. Well, not much I can do. I can't leave it like this. Right, back up that way. Oh, I'm very, very worried about this. There's juice going everywhere. Oh, this is going horribly, horribly wrong. Right. Commit, Matthew, commit! Sorry, I had to do that off screen, but it is still in one piece. I don't know how, but it's still in one piece. I was really worried about that, but it's still in one piece. A lot of juice came out of there, but that's okay. It's still in one piece. I can't believe that's still in one piece. To be honest, it still feels pretty hefty. I might even not need much of that gelatin, which I am still worried about. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to clean up all of this juice that's come out and then worry about the gelatin in a moment. Ah dear, that was stressful. Very, very stressful. Now I've taken a moment to clean up my mess. I'm actually pretty pleased with how that's come out. Yes, I'm annoyed about the hole in the bottom, but given how hellish that was to get out of the tin, I'm actually pretty pleased it's come out mostly intact. Look at that, that is a really nice colour. It looks like a giant pork pie. It smells like a giant pork pie. It still feels pretty hefty. It still feels full. I don't think the meat has actually shrunk back that much at all. I can risk the gelatin, but it won't be the end of the world if I don't actually include it. Might not be 100% authentic, but it's a massive giant Gala pie. It's not authentic. Right, I've got my chicken stock here. I've got my now bloomed gelatin here, so I'm just gonna give this a squeeze, just get out any excess liquid from it. Really don't see myself needing much of this stock now, if any of it, because it might not be needed because it might just come flooding out. But I'm going to pop this in and just stir this around until the gelatin is completely dissolved. So, moment of truth, let's see if we can put this into our pie. Right, we're back at my pie. Let's try and pour some of this stock into here. Yeah, I'll just dip this jug into that big old pot to just try and get this as a decent pouring thing. I'm losing control of my words because I'm just so focused on this. To be honest, I'm not even sure I'm going to need that much. It's still really packed full. I don't know if you can see, but I poured that stock into there and it's just not draining away. There's really not that much excess to kind of for it to go through. Right, some of that just popped out the crack in the top there. So I think I'm just gonna call that quits. It's got some in there and that'll do for me. I think all I need to do now is leave that to cool. So I'm gonna try and fit it into the fridge. I don't know if it'll fit with the board, but I'll give it a go, and then I'm just going to have to come back, hopefully once it's cooled down. God knows how long that'll take, and then I can cut into it and just see how it looks and see how it tastes. It's massive. Look at it. It's huge. Bloody hell. So slight update for you. I realised that it wouldn't fit into the fridge on this board, which presented a problem because it needs to cool down in the fridge and it needs to stay in the fridge to prevent food poisoning. So I had to get it off of this board using my pizza slice. Caused me a bit of stress, I won't lie, and some of the stock and gelatin did come out the bottom, so I had to clear that up. But it is in the fridge on the upturned tin because that does fit. Well, barely fits, it's hanging over the edge, but after removing the other shelf it did manage to kind of fit in there. So yeah, that was a thing that happened. But yeah, that was another obstacle I didn't really anticipate. I have ADHD. Planning is not really my strong suit. I am a winging it kind of person. But hey, it's there, it's in the fridge.
Many hours later.
Okay, this has had about 4 hours to cool. I don't know if it's long enough to be honest, but I'm running out of light. It's going to get dark soon, and I really want to cut into this to see how it's come out inside. This is really heavy, but it looks good from the outside. It does look good. Look at the size of this thing. It is ridiculous. It is massive, and I really want to see how it's turned out inside. It has been such a headache to make, but I'm not going to stand here any longer because it's really heavy and I really want to cut into it and see how it's turned out. Let's see how this giant Gala pie has turned out on the inside. Okay, I think this is the best angle to try and show you this from, so let's try and cut into this. Let's go down one side. I don't think it's going to have a crisp bottom somehow. Really, I'm just looking for something with some sort of structure. Don't want my hand in the way, I'll block the camera. Let's go down the other side. Let's lift this away and have the moment of truth. Oh, actually, that is not bad. That is not bad at all. Okay, the pastry is quite thick here, but that has actually turned out not so bad. That's cooked, got the egg there. What more do you want? That's a Gala pie. Look at that slice of pie. That is redonkulous. Like I say, this pastry is not completely cooked, but I guess the only thing left to do is to taste this and see how it's come out. There we go, one gigantic slice of giant Gala pie. That came out better than I expected. Hasn't really got much gelatin in there because, like I said, I was just worried about it coming out the bottom. But the proof is in the tasting. There's no pretty way to do this, so I am just going to dive in and take a bite out of this. Cheers. Tell you what, that tastes pretty dang good. That is a tasty pie. It's a hot mess. No getting around it. It's an absolute hot mess. But I did it. I made a giant Gala pie. It has come out and it tastes good. Like I said, I'm not too thrilled about the undercooked pastry here. But if that's the only thing I got to complain about, I'm all right with it. It was such a challenge. It was such, it was such a headache throughout the whole process. If that's the only thing I've got to worry about, that's a result. And to be honest, if I planned that better, if I were to do that again, then that may well have come out even better. But for something that is a complete and utter left field, let's see if we can do it, I'm happy with it. A giant Gala Pie for my 4-year channel anniversary of being on YouTube, still doing idiotic stuff like this for little to no reason other than I enjoy it. So hopefully you enjoyed that as well and I wasn't just doing it for my own entertainment. If you did, then obviously like the video and subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell to find out when new videos go up. And I'm going to continue doing stuff like this until I get tired of it, it gets too expensive, or just, I don't know, the world explodes, who knows. But that was fun. That was fun, it was ridiculous, and it's tasty. So I'm going to go off and eat as much of this as I possibly can. Yeah, here's to another 4 years. We'll see. But I really do hope you enjoyed that, and who knows, maybe there will be other giant pies in Big Foodie Geek's future. Who knows? But whether you've been around for 4 years or whether you've been around for 4 minutes just to watch me do this complete disaster, thank you for watching, and hopefully I will see you back on another Big Foodie Geek video. Take care of yourselves, bye bye. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever applies to you. I've been doing this 4 years and I still can't do an intro without it up.